My wife said, "Not tonight," just like every other night for months. But then her sister leaned in close, whispering words that would turn my world upside down. What if I said, "Right now"? In that single heartbeat, loyalty and temptation collided, pulling me into a choice I never thought I'd face. Sometimes the most dangerous moments happen right at home, hidden in plain sight. Hi everyone, I'm David, the storyteller on the Family Tales channel. Here, I'll share stories about love, conflicts, betrayal, and infidelity within American families. These stories offer a deep look into relationships and the challenges families face. Stay tuned and explore with me. If you love emotional stories and want to uncover the hidden secrets in families, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our videos. Even before I crossed the threshold of the bedroom, I sensed it was destined to be yet another one of those nights. Emily stood at the sink, her back rigid as she brushed her teeth, conveying everything without a word. She slipped into that familiar, oversized sleep shirt, frayed at the seams, the very one she donned to silently convey that there was absolutely no chance of her being naked tonight, or any evening as of late. She remained focused on her reflection as I walked in, continuing to brush with deliberate strokes, her jaw set tight. I had that rhythm down pat by now. It was always followed by a subtle rejection. I perched on the edge of the bed, methodically unlacing my boots, clinging to the absurd hope that tonight might unfold in a way unlike any other. Perhaps she would glance back and offer a smile, just like she once did. Perhaps she'd throw a playful remark my direction, just like she did in the early days. In those days, my name on her lips felt like a cherished secret she enjoyed holding close. She did not. I inquired. "Hey," I mentioned my voice is low. She expelled, rinsed thoroughly, and wiped her mouth clean with a towel. She responded in a flat tone, hardly sparing a glance. I clasped my hands, attempting to summon something extraordinary. Warmth, bravery. I was uncertain about what I truly desired. The silence that enveloped us was denser than the mattress beneath us. "Are you getting ready for bed?" I inquired. She gave a nod. "I feel completely drained." That was the signal. It has always been that way. It's been quite a long day. I inquired, despite being fully aware of the response. Emily slipped under the covers, her silence speaking volumes. She wrapped the covers around her chin like a shield, releasing a sigh that resonated with both sympathy and detachment. I reclined against the headboard, my gaze fixed on the ceiling fan that spun leisurely overhead. "We haven't, as you might expect." After some time, I finally said, "There it stood, exposed to the elements." Emily remained still. "I'm just exhausted, Jake," she said. "The workload has been absolutely overwhelming, and you're well aware of that." I glanced over at her. This extends beyond just tonight. Weeks have passed. There was no response from her. She picked up her phone from the nightstand and began to scroll through the screen. The light illuminated her face, yet it did so in a harsh and unflattering manner. The air was frigid, a deep blue hue enveloping the scene, and I felt a constriction in my chest as her gaze darted towards something far more captivating than my presence. "I want to assure you, I'm not trying to rush you. I really miss you. It's more than just intimacy. It's about you." Her thumb halted in its scrolling journey. "Is that you, Jake? Is it possible to postpone this for tonight? Could you please?" I took a deep breath and rose to my feet. I felt foolish, petite. It felt as if I had laid myself bare, only to be greeted with indifference. I decided to take a drive, I murmured, as I reached for my keys on the dresser. She remained silent. There was no inquiry about my destination or my return time. Only one more moment of silence separates us. Another fleeting moment of loss. I stepped out of the bedroom, the sound of my boots thudding against the hardwood floor. I reached the front door just in time to catch a sound stirring behind me. I pivoted, anticipating Emily's arrival. A shift in feelings, perhaps a soft murmur of regret. Yet, it wasn't her. Lena, the younger sister of Emily, made her entrance. She had spent the week visiting, staying in the guest room, following her breakup with a tech guy from Portland. She stood at the edge of the hallway, barefoot, clad in one of Emily's old t-shirts that fell just above her knees. Her dark hair flowed freely, a touch tousled, and her eyes held an enigmatic depth. "Are you all right?" she inquired gently. I nodded, holding back my words for the moment. Struggling to catch some Z's, she included. I gave a slight shake of my head. "Nope, simply cruising, in need of air." She rested against the wall, her arms casually crossed beneath her chest. "Jake." Her voice carried a softness that Emily hadn't experienced in months. It unleashed something deep within me. What if I told you, at this very moment? It took a moment to sink in. My mind raced to comprehend it, questioning whether I had misheard. My breath hitched in my throat. "What is going on?" I replied, my eyes widening in surprise. She tilted her head ever so slightly, her lips twitching in a way that was neither a smile nor entirely devoid of one. She lowered her voice to a near whisper. I stated, "What if I told you I wouldn't say no tonight?" The ground appeared to waver beneath my feet. I chuckled awkwardly, attempting to downplay the situation. "Are you serious right now?" Yet there was a glimmer in her eyes that suggested otherwise. She took a step forward, then paused, just enough to bridge the gap, allowing me to catch a glimpse of her pupils expanding subtly in the dim glow of the hallway. A fleeting spark danced across her expression. Craving, melancholy, perhaps a combination of both. She softly suggested, "Some people always remember what lies before them." I averted my gaze, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My heart raced wildly in my chest. I was convinced she could hear it. This was absolutely wild. This was incorrect. For the first time in weeks, I experienced a sensation beyond mere numbness. "It's time for me to leave," I exclaimed swiftly, clutching the doorknob, as if it were my sole anchor to reality. Lena gave a nod of agreement. Understood. She remained silent, choosing not to push further. She turned and glided back toward the guest room, her bare feet whispering against the hardwood, her silhouette fading away like a wisp of smoke. I lingered in the open doorway for a full minute, gasping as if I had just sprinted 5 miles. As I stepped outside into the night, uncertainty enveloped me. Was I fleeing from something, or was I being drawn toward an exciting new adventure? The night air struck me with a jolt, fresh and inviting, a gentle nudge that life beyond our deteriorating relationship continued to thrive. I settled into the driver's seat, pausing for a moment as I clutched the steering wheel, uncertain of my destination or the reason I was fleeing. The curtains in the living room fluttered ever so slightly, yet I was certain Emily's gaze was elsewhere. She stopped doing it altogether. I half anticipated Lena to emerge, her silhouette dancing behind the fabric like a specter. However, she chose not to. Nobody did. As I turned the key and the engine roared to life, I eased out of the driveway, caught in a swirl of uncertainty. Was I in pursuit of tranquility, or merely escaping the sting of another night filled with rejection? Just 2 blocks away, The serene whisper of the tires was interrupted by the unmistakable sound of the passenger door swinging wide open. "What on earth?" I exclaimed, hitting the brake hard. Lena was the one. She effortlessly settled next to me, as if it were the most instinctive act imaginable, her bare legs exposed, a hoodie draped over the t-shirt she had borrowed. Her eyes held a serene mystery, and the subtle shift in her expression charged the atmosphere in the car with an undeniable intensity. "Are you out of your mind?" I inquired, my surprise outweighing any anger. With a decisive motion, she closed the door behind her. "I thought you might appreciate some company." I gazed at her intently. "Lena, you simply can't." "Take a deep breath," she whispered gently. "A note has been placed on the kitchen table. Emily won't even realize I'm missing. She's likely already drifted off or lost in a TikTok rabbit hole." I reclined, my hands firmly clutching the wheel. This isn't the best approach. With a gentle tilt of her head, she gazed out the window. "You continue to assert that as if you're anticipating a debate from me. I'm not attempting to charm you, Jake. I simply didn't want you to spend the night by yourself." The pressure in my chest subsided somewhat, yet it lingered, because there was more to fear than just seduction. I shifted back onto the road, allowing the silence to envelop us. It was quite bearable. The atmosphere was dense, heavy, reminiscent of the silence shared by two individuals who understood that unspoken truths lingered just beneath the surface. Truths neither was ready to confront. "You used to smile more," she remarked after a moment. I stole a quick glance at her. "Excuse me, please." "You used to have this laugh," she said, a small, fond smirk playing on her lips. "During my college breaks, you were always the one bringing laughter to everyone around. You and Em shared that silly inside joke about grocery store music, and you would both hum those elevator tunes like goofballs in the car. I believed you both were enchanting." I gripped the wheel firmly. "That feels like ages ago." Her gaze met mine, a deep and genuine connection. What transpired? I took my time before responding. I turned into an empty parking lot next to a park trail where I used to jog, back when I thought I could outrun my problems. The engine is now off. She simply lost interest in me. Gradually, one by one, the caresses faded away, followed by the kisses, and then the intimacy, while I continued to convince myself it was merely a temporary phase. Lena remained silent, offering no judgment, simply absorbing the words around her. "It's not just the absence of intimacy that gets to me," I added. "It's astonishing how effortlessly she overlooked my ongoing efforts." She gave a slow nod. "She no longer sees you." I blinked. The impact of the words was more profound than I anticipated. "Absolutely." She leaned in just a bit, her hair cascading over her shoulder. "You shouldn't blame yourself, really." I expressed my uncertainty. Perhaps I've become a bit dull. Perhaps I could have put in more effort. "That's nonsense," Lena declared, her tone cutting for the first time. "Last night, you prepared dinner. Last week, you took care of the sink issue. After a long day at work, you still find the time to tackle the laundry. That's anything but boring, Jake. That's making an appearance." She hasn't been around for quite some time now. Her words lingered in the air, fragile and unrefined. At a loss for words, I found myself gazing through the windshield, captivated by a moth dancing beneath the streetlight. "She no longer reaches out to you, does she?" Lena inquired. I paused. "Absolutely not. When did she last gaze at you with that unmistakable desire?" I released my breath gently. "More than a year ago." Lena's eyes fell to her lap.
She toyed with the sleeve of her hoodie, her voice now a gentle whisper. I recall, at 19, I was completely smitten with you. I glanced at her, taken aback. She smiled, her gaze lowered. You might not have realized it, but I considered you the most attractive man I've ever encountered. I would find myself at the dinner table, lost in daydreams of your hand brushing against mine, igniting a delightful buzz that would linger for an hour. My heart raced. Are you serious? She gazed at me, her expression devoid of a smile. Do I seem like I'm joking? I was at a loss for how to handle that situation. We lingered in silence for what felt like an eternity after that. It's the type that simmers with tension, poised for the slightest spark to ignite a reaction. I understand that I can't. I began. I understand. She cut in. I have no intention of causing any disruption. I simply wanted to share this with you. Jake, you are still in the spotlight. I faced her completely, scanning her expression for any hint that this was merely a game. Yet her eyes conveyed a profound sincerity, along with an unspoken depth that I hesitated to define. In a fleeting moment, she extended her hand and gently placed it over mine. It was pure, untouched, yet it ignited a warmth that surged through my arm. She leaned back in her seat, pulling away a moment later. Take me home, she whispered. I certainly did. The silence enveloped us as we drove, the air heavy with unspoken words, the type that was destined to linger beyond the dawn. I stayed awake after getting home. Emily lay peacefully on her side of the bed, softly snoring, her body wrapped in blankets like a fortress that I could no longer access. I lingered in the doorway, captivated by her every move, not in a strange way, just reflecting on the feeling of wanting to slip into that bed beside her, believing I would be embraced there. She remained completely still when I returned. Where were you? No time for sleepiness. No light remains for me. Only quiet and separation, the type that creeps into a home like mildew when the effort of love is no longer nurtured. Descending the stairs, I poured a whiskey I had no desire for and found myself at the kitchen sink, gazing out at the moonlit yard. The air hung motionless, its silence amplifying the solitude that resonated within me. Suddenly, I heard gentle footsteps approaching from behind. I could sense it was Lena without even needing to look back. The echo of her footsteps lingered in my mind, bare feet gliding with a blend of caution and assurance. She inquired, "Couldn't sleep either?" I turned my head and looked back at her. She donned sweatpants, her hoodie zipped halfway, with her hair tied in a messy knot that added to her soft allure. She added, "I was worried I might have scared you away earlier." A sly smile crept across my face. A small amount. Honestly, I have to admit, her laughter was soft and inviting. I had no intention of doing that. I suppose I tend to express my thoughts quite freely. No, I stated firmly. It's invigorating. Many individuals tend to remain quite silent. Lena joined me at the sink, her gaze fixed on the same yard that had captured my attention for the last 10 minutes. Looking to escape this place? I blinked. At this moment, she gave a nod. Absolutely. Let's hit the road. After a moment of uncertainty, I gave a nod. Just a moment, please. Silently, I reached for my keys once more and laced up my sneakers. Emily remained firmly planted upstairs. The entire home felt like a gallery of our history, a poignant tableau of two individuals gradually losing the art of connection. In the car, Lena tucked her legs onto the passenger seat and crossed her arms over her chest, as if preparing for an impending moment, perhaps safeguarding something. Her knees angled gently in my direction.
I eased out of the driveway and made my way toward the town's edge, where the road stretches into darkness, straight and infinite. "Looking for some tunes?" I inquired. She gave a slight shake of her head. "Simply hit the road." I certainly did. The engine's hum broke the stillness of the moment. The streetlights faded into the distance behind us. The path unfolded expansively. Eventually, Lena broke the silence. There was a time when I found myself envious of Emily. I stole a quick glance at her. "Is that so?" "Absolutely." Her voice floated softly, a whisper carried by the wind. She had a guy who cooked and truly listened, who gazed at her as if she truly mattered. Many women overlook that. I was at a loss for words. Lena shared that she began to distance herself years ago. I was able to visualize it. During family dinners and holidays, she would completely tune you out. While you engaged in conversation about work or some random topic, she simply scrolled through her phone. I absolutely detested it. "Perhaps she simply lost her feelings," I remarked. "Perhaps she has lost the ability to love," Lena responded. "There's a distinction." I took a serene detour along a tranquil road that meandered by the reservoir. The water shimmered under the moonlight, resembling a flawless sheet of polished steel. Lena exhaled softly, resting her head against the cool glass of the window. "Have you ever experienced the sensation of shouting into an empty abyss?" I inquired. "As if you're following all the right steps, staying loyal and being present, yet it all feels meaningless," she whispered constantly. Alongside my former partner, I continually sought to measure up. Yet, there are those who simply fail to recognize your presence. Your volume is irrelevant. Absolutely. I mentioned that my throat felt tight. Precisely that. The silence that once enveloped us transformed. It was no longer devoid of substance. It brimmed with unspoken words waiting to be shared, unspoken fears that linger in the shadows. The atmosphere in the car was charged, as if we were caught in the pull of something perilous, yet irresistibly alluring. Lena adjusted her position, folding one leg underneath her. "Is Emily aware of just how fortunate she truly is?" "Absolutely not. I mentioned earlier that I was capable of thought. She once did. Now, I feel like I'm merely a whisper in the background." Lena glanced in my direction. I sensed her eyes lingering on the side of my face, her gaze caressing my skin like a gentle touch. She called her an idiot, her voice barely above a whisper. I stole a quick glance at her. "Please refrain from saying that." "I will," Lena declared with renewed intensity. She possessed something genuine, Jake. She allowed it to slip away effortlessly. Her voice wavered slightly at the end, and in that moment, I glimpsed the reality woven into her words. This was more than just Emily. This was also about her, on the experience of feeling invisible and unvalued. I parked the car at the scenic overlook above the reservoir and turned off the engine. The stillness that followed felt almost sacred. We lingered in the shadows, illuminated solely by the moonlight and the soft glow of the dashboard. Lena unexpectedly reached out and brushed her fingers against my hand, simply with a gentle touch, perfectly balanced, to awaken my senses. She expressed, "I'm not aiming to complicate matters. I want you to understand that you are seen." I remained still. I held my breath. Her thumb glided over my knuckles, gentle and unhurried, and I sensed my heart expand in a way it hadn't in years. It had been a while since Emily had gazed at me as if I were more than just an object in our home. However, I chose not to take Lena's hand. I held back.
I allowed the moment to linger, enveloped in warmth and a hint of danger. As I turned the key and the engine roared back to life, silence enveloped us for the entire journey home. Yet, the dynamics between us had shifted completely. The following morning, I found myself at the kitchen table, feigning interest in the news on my phone. The screen illuminated before me, yet my gaze was unfocused, merely serving as a barrier. Emily entered with an effortless grace, a warm cup of coffee cradled in her hand, looking sharp in her favorite blazer and heels. Her scent was a delightful blend of citrus and luxurious perfume. It's not about sleep, skin, or those cozy mornings spent together in bed. Immaculately precise, effortlessly elusive. "Morning," she said, her gaze elsewhere. "Hey," I whispered. "I'm still on the screen." She glided through the space as if we were mere acquaintances, sharing a temporary roof. She swung open the fridge, snatched a pre-cut container of fruit, glanced at her phone, and took a sip of her coffee. Not even a fleeting look. No hint of curiosity whatsoever. "Are you putting in some extra hours tonight?" I inquired after a moment's pause. "Probably," she responded, stepping halfway out of the kitchen. "Get ready for the upcoming client review." She took a moment to add, "Don't wait up." And just like that, she vanished. No kiss, keep your hands off. No hint of a smile. The sharp click of her heels echoed down the hall. The front door swung open and shut, and the distant hum of her car faded into the distance. I found myself sitting there, gazing at the house that had fallen silent. Silence reigns once more. It was empty, save for the sound of Lena's voice drifting in from behind me. She didn't even bother to ask if you wanted coffee. I pivoted. She leaned against the archway, wrapped in one of Emily's old, oversized flannels, her bare legs vanishing beneath the hem. I muttered that she hasn't made me coffee in over a year. She failed to greet me with a good morning. She didn't inquire about your plans. It feels as though you're the spirit haunting this place. I simply shrugged. Absolutely. I'm aware. Lena walked barefoot, reaching for the kettle and placing it on the stove. Isn't it strange? She remarked. It's fascinating how individuals master the art of feigning that everything is perfectly fine. We navigate through the routine until it no longer feels like deception. I gave a slow nod. Absolutely. We crafted a reality from illusion. She brewed a fresh pot of coffee for us, passed me a steaming mug, and settled into her seat across from me, one leg elegantly tucked beneath her thigh. She appeared incredibly at ease in this setting. She made me feel truly seen. After a while, I remarked that she used to love cooking with me. We would twirl in the kitchen, sharing laughter over silly jokes. She would quietly approach me from behind and wrap her arms around me just for the sake of it. What's next? Lena inquired softly. Now I find myself cooking alone, a hint of bitterness lurking just beneath the surface. I set the plates before her, and she scrolls through Instagram as she enjoys her meal. Lena took a delicate sip of her coffee. Do you still have feelings for her? The question struck deeper than I anticipated. I'm not sure, I replied. I believe I adore the person she used to be, our identity. What about now? I'm hesitant to acknowledge that it's truly finished. Lena gave a nod of agreement. She lowered her eyes to the edge of her cup. I used to engage in that activity, remain for an extended period, hold on to the vision of what I imagined it could become, rather than embracing the reality of what it truly was. Her voice carried a weight, a lingering pain that time had dulled, yet it remained palpable. "She didn't always treat you this way," she remarked. "I noticed it during my visits. You were the spark that brightened the entire space. As you chop vegetables, she playfully steals kisses between each slice. You once caressed her, as if she were flames, and she ignited with passion for you." I took a deep breath, the burden of recollection pressing down on my heart. "What's next?" I inquired. Lena locked her gaze with mine. "Now you caress the air, as if you're still longing for her." However, she isn't responding. The truth seared deeply. That afternoon, Lena tidied up the guest room, even though it wasn't necessary, and meticulously folded laundry that belonged to someone else. She delivered the groceries, repaired a dripping faucet. Small details that Emily had overlooked were now shattered. Small gestures that Emily once admired in me. It felt peculiar to witness another person show care in a home that had grown so distant and unwelcoming, like vibrant hues returning to a monochrome image. That evening, I lounged on the couch, channel surfing, while Emily faced me, her laptop aglow, work emails streaming in. Lena nestled into the armchair, a book in hand, her legs tucked beneath her. Soft music floated from her phone, creating a gentle hum that lingered in the stillness around us. Emily remained quite reserved. With a swift motion, she shut her laptop, grumbled about looming deadlines, and vanished upstairs, leaving the goodnight unspoken. Lena shot me a quick look, her eyes dancing with intrigue. "Care for a glass of wine?" I gave a nod. She returned with two, passed one to me, and nestled back in, this time on the same couch, just one cushion apart. The distance may not have been vast, yet it encompassed everything. "Did you catch that she didn't inquire about your day?" Lena remarked after a moment. "I ceased to anticipate her actions," I remarked. She savored her wine, taking her time with each sip. "Jake, you truly deserve so much more." I glanced over. "Am I?" Her gaze was fixed on me. "Absolutely you do." The silence that followed was thick, not with discomfort, but with potential. The room was filled with warmth once more, not from the wine or the soft melodies, but from the comforting presence of someone who truly recognized me again. In that moment, it felt more intimate than any kiss ever could. What began as a light-hearted jest transformed into an intimate evening, with two souls sharing a bottle of wine on a serene Thursday night. They exchanged memories like cherished old coins, examining each one to uncover the treasures that still held significance. Lena returned from the kitchen, carrying the second bottle with ease. Emily was upstairs, probably lost in slumber or immersed in work emails she never mentioned. The house lay in quietude, punctuated only by the gentle clink of glasses and the sporadic creak of aged floorboards, as if the very walls were listening in. Lena settled beside me on the couch once more, one leg tucked beneath her, a wine glass elegantly cradled in her hand. "Are you ready to join in on some fun?" I arched an eyebrow. "Are we talking about a game? How about a game that involves some drinks?" With a smirk, she provided clarification. "The game is known as the confession game. Have you ever played?" "It's been ages," I remarked, casting a wary glance her way. "What's the hidden detail? No strings attached. Simply honesty. No evasion. Absolutely no judgment. You respond, you take a sip. Straightforward." After a brief moment of uncertainty, I lifted my glass. "Understood. Bring it on." She leaned in just a bit, her voice a delightful mix of playfulness and steadiness. "Have you ever considered being unfaithful to Emily?" I almost sputtered on the sip I had just taken. Incredible. Right from the start. I mentioned coughing. Her eyes glimmered with defiance. Only the truth. I let out a breath. Absolutely not. No, I haven't. Absolutely not. Yet, she pressed on with a casual ease. I gazed into my glass, observing the wine dance gracefully in its depths. I've observed women, I confessed. It's difficult to ignore when your own wife gazes past you as if you're merely a coat rack. However, I never took action on it. I always believed it would resolve on its own. She gave a nod. Understood. It's my turn now. I turned my gaze towards her, a newfound awareness washing over me. Identical inquiry. Lena nibbled on her bottom lip, her smile wavering just a bit. Indeed, she replied after a brief pause, I certainly did. One time. He was a colleague of mine, a designer. He made me feel acknowledged, radiant, vibrant. However, I always stayed within the boundaries. What held you back? She gazed at me and stated plainly that if she acted otherwise, she wouldn't become the person she aspired to be, even though he no longer warranted her loyalty. I gave a nod. That's a challenging situation to navigate. She offered a subtle smile. What's the next question? Go ahead. How did you perceive me at first glance? I let out a soft laugh. You were a source of trouble. She let out a laugh. Facing challenges? What's the reason behind that? I smiled broadly. You strolled through our home as if it were your own domain. You'd swipe the remote, indulge in the final slice of pie, and playfully tease Emily as if she were your little sister. You gazed at me as if you held secrets that were never meant to be revealed. I was 19, she remarked, rolling her eyes. I felt like I was hardly even there. You exuded confidence, and I made the necessary adjustments. And yes, you had that expression, as if you were perpetually 2 steps ahead of the crowd. She gazed into her wine, gently swirling it with a thoughtful grace. I had a crush on you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I gazed at her. Excuse me? Back then, I had a massive crush on you. One so embarrassing that I'd rather my sister never found out, she said with a laugh, taking a sip from her glass. I would linger in the kitchen, captivated by the way you brewed your morning coffee. I was taken aback, bursting into laughter. Are you really serious? Absolutely, she replied, nodding in agreement. You sported those outdated band t-shirts and consistently rocked that tousled bedhead look. I imagined you as a blend of a dad bod and the iconic charm of James Dean. I shook my head with a grin. Incredible. That came as a surprise. She cast her eyes upon me once more, her expression now imbued with a deeper gravity. I often found myself lying in bed, envisioning the sensation of your touch. The atmosphere shifted in an instant. A profound connection blossomed between us, richer than mere flirtation, more comforting than a glass of fine wine. I found myself at a loss for words, I confessed. You don't need to say a word, she remarked. I wanted to take a moment to share something with you. I placed my glass on the table. The silence in the room was palpable. The sound of my pulse surged, echoing in my ears. She remained silent. She extended her hand, moving slowly and with intention, gently resting it atop mine. We lingered in that moment, our fingers grazing, not fully clasping, merely savoring the electric tension in the air. I don't want to complicate your life, she whispered. You're not, I mentioned, hardly taking a breath. It's no longer what it once was. She inclined her body just a touch. The scent of her shampoo enveloped me, a soothing blend of lavender and warmth. My gaze darted to her lips, and hers met mine in a fleeting moment. Yet, she remained at a distance. Instead, she murmured, "It's getting late." I nodded, even though I wished the night could stretch on forever. She rose gradually, lingering at the archway, before glancing back at me. "Thank you for playing," she said gently. "Sleep well, Jake. Sweet dreams, Lena." She vanished up the stairs, leaving me on the couch with a half-empty glass of wine, a pounding heart, and the lingering resonance of a confession that seemed to shift everything. Once again, sleep eluded me. That was increasingly becoming the standard. The guilt hadn't even set in, not just yet. The sound resonated within me, a prelude to impending fracture, as I stood still, clinging to the hope that silence might somehow prevent the shards from scattering. Above, Emily let out soft, gentle snores. It was not something fresh. For years, her snoring had been a gentle, rhythmic sound, reminiscent of a clock's steady ticking. Yet, it never felt this overwhelming before. Finally, I slipped out of bed and padded downstairs, barefoot, clad in just a t-shirt and boxers. The house felt frigid, yet I craved fresh air, an open expanse. I found myself in that bed, feeling the weight of solitude beside someone who no longer even feigned a desire to connect with me. The back door let out a haunting creak as I nudged it open. The night welcomed me with a refreshing breeze and the subtle, earthy scent of freshly mown grass. The patio lights may have been off, yet the moonlight cast a shimmering silver glow over everything. I stepped outside, arms crossed, poised on the edge of the porch, caught in a moment of indecision between walking and running. And then I laid eyes on her, Lena. She sat there, nestled in one of the porch chairs, a blanket draped around her legs, earbuds casually resting in her lap. Before I even uttered a word, her head had already turned. "I couldn't sleep either," she murmured gently. I nodded and moved closer, pausing just briefly before taking a seat next to her in the nearby chair. For a time, we remained silent, nestled in the stillness of midnight, side by side, attuned to the gentle symphony of crickets echoing in our breaths. Then she whispered, "Did it always feel this way with her, at the end?" "No," I stated. "Ultimately, it feels like an act. However, prior to that, prior to its existence, she desired me. We were so very close. She would drift off to sleep, resting her head on my chest. She would rouse me from sleep just to share her peculiar dream." Lena nodded slowly, as if she had been aware all along. She offered a subtle smile. "I'm unsure. I insisted that we shouldn't. I understand, but I really hope you keep going." Lena took a deep breath, yet her hand remained still. "I'm not trying to take her place, Jake," she said after a moment of reflection. "I have no intention of causing any issues. I see you, and I understand the longing that comes with going to bed each night, hoping for someone to reach out to you." My chest constricted. I turned my gaze, knowing that if I didn't, I could end up making a choice I'd regret forever. "I believe I've lost touch with the sensation," I remarked, "of being desired." Lena reclined in her chair, her gaze fixed on the twinkling stars above. "There's no need to let go of what matters." The silence hung in the air once more, but it felt anything but threatening. It enveloped me in a warmth I hadn't experienced in ages. In that moment, her thumb glided softly, a delicate caress across my skin. deliberate and measured, yet striking with the speed of lightning. I flinched, not out of fear, but from the sheer intensity of the moment, as if my body couldn't decide whether to flee or draw her nearer. Every nerve was on high alert. We held back from kissing. We stayed right where we were. Yet, that one, enduring touch conveyed it all. I whispered to myself that I should head back inside, yet I remained still, making no effort to rise. Indeed, she murmured, "Same here." We remained perfectly still. Her hand glided away, fingertips softly tracing my palm before releasing their hold. She claimed the top spot. He turned back, facing the door. Just before stepping inside, she hesitated and glanced back over her shoulder. "Sweet dreams, Jake. Sweet dreams, Lena." As she stepped inside, I lingered on the porch for another 10 minutes, my hands still buzzing from her touch, grappling with the unsettling realization that the atmosphere between us had shifted irrevocably. However, it indeed had. The day following the touch was excruciatingly mundane. Emily followed her familiar routine. Makeup sprawled across the kitchen island, a cup of black coffee sitting untouched on the counter, while she replies to emails as if her phone held more intimacy than I ever could. She remained unaware of the duration of my gaze, wishing for a moment of realization to spark within her, prompting her to finally inquire, "Are you okay?" However, it didn't occur. Instead, she offered a fleeting remark about the trash being forgotten once more, then vanished into the garage, her heels clicking behind her like the final punctuation of a sentence. That morning, Lena was absent from the kitchen. The door remained firmly shut. Without coffee cups, her gentle humming leaves no trace. It felt as if she had intentionally withdrawn, and I couldn't help but resent how acutely I felt the void of her energy. By mid-afternoon, frustration simmered within me as I sat in my office, the emails on my screen a jumbled haze, my concentration completely shattered. I didn't feel any anger towards Lena. I wasn't truly upset with Emily, not at all. I felt a deep frustration with this existence, this gradual wearing away of something that once held immense significance. I once dreamed with Emily. I decided to skip dinner. That evening, I returned to discover her nestled on the couch, the soft light of her phone illuminating her face, while the TV buzzed softly with a reality show I couldn't quite place. She kept her gaze down. Not even when I let my keys clatter down onto the entry table, with a bit more force than usual. "Are you staying late again tomorrow?" I inquired, my tone more cutting than intended. She blinked, her eyes glued to the screen as the show unfolded before her. "Excuse me?" I stated. "Will you be putting in extra hours again tomorrow?" I reiterated, my jaw set tight. "Most likely. What's the reason behind this?" I entered the room and positioned myself between her and the television. That captured her interest. She gently lowered her phone. "Jake, what on earth is going on? It's been so long since your touch lingered on my skin," I stated plainly. Her gaze locked onto mine, a look of astonishment crossing her face. "What's the source of this? After months of feeling invisible to you, I finally reached my breaking point. After hearing 'not tonight' so many times, I began to feel like a stranger in my own home." Emily straightened her posture, her phone now abandoned on the coffee table. "You're overreacting." "Absolutely not, Emily. I'm being completely transparent." She let out a derisive laugh. "Oh, come on. Are you asking me to pretend to desire intimacy just to ease your insecurities? This goes beyond mere physicality," I growled. "It's all about remaining unnoticed. Please refrain from touching me. I only hear from you when I have a question. You hardly seem to notice me at all. Sharing a home yet feeling an unparalleled sense of solitude. With her arms crossed, she stood firm. I've been feeling overwhelmed. I'm completely worn out, Jake. The workload is absolutely overwhelming. You're aware of that. I responded with clarity. Having grasped the situation, I've allowed you the freedom to breathe. I haven't made any moves. However, here's the thing. Eventually, space transforms into neglect. Her expression shifted, just a touch. Is this concerning Lena? My breath was taken away. What is happening? She's simply feeling a bit uninspired. She has consistently shown a strong desire for attention. A sensation twisted in my gut. Don't speak about her that way, I warned, my voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Oh, so now you're standing up for her. Emily let out a harsh laugh. When you found yourself lacking your wife's attention, you sought it from the nearest woman instead. If you hadn't checked out of this marriage 2 years ago, perhaps I wouldn't have needed it. She recoiled. For the first time in months, a smile broke through her expression. I didn't check out, she whispered. I found myself at a loss for words, and suddenly, it seemed simpler to remain silent altogether. We stood there, silence thick and charged, as unspoken words lingered in the air like fragments of a shattered moment. We remained perfectly still. In silence, Emily rose and strode past me. She ascended the stairs and gently shut the bedroom door behind her. What about me? I remained on the lower level. I didn't make an effort to keep up. I picked up a cozy blanket from the hall closet and settled onto the couch. I fixed my gaze on the ceiling fan, trying to push Lena from my mind. Suddenly, soft footsteps echoed from the stairs. Definitely not Emily. Lena. Unshod, gentle, intentional. She emerged at the threshold of the room. Her gaze locked onto mine without hesitation. There was silence between us. With deliberate grace, she made her way across the floor and knelt beside the couch. I propped myself up a bit, the blanket sliding down from my chest. She extended her hand toward me. No kiss. Silence speaks volumes. With her arms wrapped around me and her head resting gently on my shoulder. Her hair exuded the soothing scent of lavender, evoking a sense of tranquility and restfulness. Her fingertips brushed against my ribs where my shirt had slipped up. I remained still. I simply shut my eyes and embraced the sensation of being desired. She chose not to return upstairs. That night was different. As Lena's body nestled against mine, the burden of countless lonely nights melted away. No thunderclap echoed through the air, no chaotic flurry of arms and desire. Simply warmth. Inhale deeply. Her fingers glided along the edge of my jaw, as if I were something divine. There was silence between us. There was no necessity for that. I leaned in and kissed her, a hesitant touch, quivering with anticipation, probing the boundary we both understood had already been surpassed. Her lips opened effortlessly, exuding warmth and allure. A kiss that provided answers to unasked questions. I drew her in tighter. She gracefully climbed over me, settling into my lap as if it were her rightful throne. It was calm and collected. It was not about revenge. It was a sense of relief. Garments were removed slowly, each layer taken off with tenderness, as if we understood that this moment transcended mere physicality. It was all about recognition. Two individuals who had lingered in silence, concealing their deep desire to be truly noticed. The moment my fingers brushed against her bare skin, She let out a soft gasp, subtle, yet genuine. Her hips instinctively swayed closer, hands finding their place on my shoulders, as if seeking stability. Neither of us averted our gaze. Lena had her flaws. She bore a delicate scar on her left hip, accompanied by a subtle freckle on her right breast. Her thighs felt velvety, her breath a little unsteady. In all of it, she felt more authentic than anything I had experienced in years. As I finally made my way in, it was a deliberate and measured approach. Her body embraced mine effortlessly, as if it had been anticipating this moment. Her eyes gently closed, and her mouth parted in a soft gasp that resonated through every fiber of my being. We transitioned together, with a sense of calm and purpose, free from haste or urgency, simply present. The couch let out a soft creak beneath us. The evening breeze gently kissed the perspiration from our skin. Her moans were gentle and airy, yet tinged with desire, as if she were bestowing upon me a treasure that no one else had ever truly deserved. It felt as though she was endeavoring to occupy every vacant corner within me that had remained empty. As she arrived, she grasped my back and softly murmured my name. Quiet, composed, yet filled with respect. Jake. As if it held significance. As if I held any significance. We fell into each other, our bodies entwined, hearts pounding, the silence of the room broken only by our soft breaths. I embraced her, her head nestled against my chest, and for the first time, I felt free to crave affection without the weight of guilt. I felt empowered, not like a burden. I merely occupied space. Eventually, she broke the silence. You should have experienced this long ago. I chose not to respond. I was unable to. My throat felt constricted, and I was hesitant to spoil the moment with careless words. Her fingers glided in a slow, languid circle across my chest. I regret that decision. However, I have no regrets. My heart skipped a beat. Absolutely. Exactly. Likewise. She draped the blanket over us, and I remained still. We both found ourselves wide awake, yet we remained there in silence, enveloped in a sensation that blended warmth with guilt simultaneously. After a while, perhaps an hour later, she leaned in and whispered, "She's going to know." "I understand," I responded. She let out a soft sigh against my shoulder. "I don't want to be the catalyst for chaos in your life." "My life feels like ashes," I remarked, gazing up at the ceiling. "You're the first thing that felt real, not just a haze." Lena nestled closer, her legs intertwining with mine. "That's not nothing," she remarked. I concur, it's not. The guilt arrived gradually, like a shadow silently gliding over the wall. I didn't attempt to refute it. I had just broken my wife's trust. Although she had already distanced herself from me emotionally, I found myself entering a situation that would transform everything. Yet, I discovered no trace of regret. Not for the way Lena caressed me, not for the way she breathed my name, as if it held significance once more. As the early morning light crept in, with Lena peacefully resting on my chest, I found myself gazing out the window at the softening sky. In that moment, it struck me that regardless of the excuses I crafted or the lifelessness of our marriage, this was the pivotal moment that would change everything. As the sun broke over the horizon, it hardly seemed like the dawn of a new chapter. It carried the weight of a warning, yet I remained still. I had no desire to. Yet Lena stirred gently and gazed up at me, her eyes tender and heavy with slumber. "Are you all right?" she spoke softly. I gave a nod. I believe that's the case. Her lips brushed against my chest, perfectly positioned over my heart. We'll find a solution, whatever is on the horizon. Yet in that moment, we were both aware the impending moment promised pain. We lingered in that delicate, fleeting tranquility for another hour, until the sound of footsteps echoed above us. Emily. We stood still, not out of fear, but because we were both aware that the countdown had begun. As soon as I detected Emily's footsteps overhead, a chill swept through me. Lena remained nestled against my chest, yet I could feel her body stiffen. We stayed put. With bated breath and racing hearts, we listened intently as Emily made her way across the hallway. Suddenly, the gentle sound of the bathroom door clicking shut filled the air. Flowing water. The sound of a toilet flushing. A cabinet swung open. Ordinary household noises that now resonated like ominous alerts. Lena gradually rose, wrapping the blanket around herself as she stood up. Her exposed skin glimmered in the gentle morning light, both stunning and unsettling. Her gaze met mine, a blend of warmth and urgency swirling within it. "I think it's time for me to leave," she murmured. I nodded, my throat parched. With a swift motion, she snatched her hoodie and glided up the stairs, her departure ethereal, the only sound being the faint creak of the fourth step, consistently in the fourth position. I once cherished that flaw. Now it twisted my stomach in knots. I lounged on the couch, bare beneath the blanket, a chill of sweat forming on my chest. The living room was infused with her essence, lavender, warmth, and a hint of something electric. I brushed my hand across my face. The weight of guilt was settling in, anchoring itself deep within me. The shower began to run, filling the air with its soothing sound. Emily's typical morning routine. Precisely 10 minutes. Next, apply the lotion. Next, apply the perfume. Then she walked out the door, not even glancing my way. That morning, however, everything seemed to have changed. As she descended the stairs, clad in navy slacks and a light blouse, her damp hair elegantly twisted, I found myself at the kitchen counter, cradling a cup of black coffee, as if it held the power to redeem me. "You're up early," she remarked, extending her hand toward a banana. "Absolutely," I responded. Sleep was scarce. She averted her gaze from me. For a brief instant, I questioned whether she was aware. If a part of her had felt the change. Women possess a remarkable intuition, particularly regarding emotional nuances, and ours had just transformed. Just as she was about to depart, I found my voice once more. "Emily," I asked, "are you available to chat tonight? Are we truly having a conversation?" She lingered at the threshold, keys clutched tightly in her hand. "What's the topic?" "Learn more about us." She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. He offered a subtle nod. "All right. This evening." In an instant, she disappeared. As the afternoon wore on, Lena remained hidden away in her room. I sent her a message. "Are you okay?" A few minutes later, her reply arrived. "Absolutely. I just required some room to breathe." We anticipated this outcome. I aimed to reply with a message that would resonate deeply, something to tether her to me amidst the turmoil. All I expressed was, "I miss you." No response from her. That evening, the house buzzed with an electric energy, reminiscent of the tension before a storm. Emily arrived home later than she typically does. She appeared weary, but it wasn't due to her job, from evasion. As we sensed the impending revelations, it became clear that there were truths neither of us could conceal any longer. We found ourselves in the living room, positioned at an angle, avoiding direct eye contact. And with that, she began. "Let's have a conversation." I cleared my throat. "Emily, when did your love for me fade away?" She fluttered her eyelashes. "Incredible. Is this really how we're kicking things off?" "I'm not looking for a confrontation," I stated. "All I seek is the truth." She remained silent for a moment. She let out a deep sigh. "I'm uncertain. Perhaps it unfolded slowly over time. Perhaps I became oblivious when your laughter faded away. Perhaps my efforts waned when your inquiries faded." I continued to inquire, my voice barely above a whisper. "You simply ceased to listen to me." She averted her gaze, her jaw tight with tension. "I kept reaching for you in bed, lingering on that familiar gesture. You would definitely recoil. It felt as if my touch repulsed you." "I didn't mean to," she said hurriedly. I felt incredibly distant. I found myself at a loss for how to return. I pointed out that you didn't make an effort. You surrendered. "And you didn't," she retorted sharply. "Stop pretending you're without fault. You also powered down. You withdrew into quietude, heading to work, embracing the illusion that all was well. We lingered in the moment, our breaths coming in quick, heavy gasps. The atmosphere surrounding us heavy with the burden of all that remains unsaid. Then she turned her gaze toward me, her eyes now piercingly sharp. "Is there another person involved?" she inquired. I wasn't surprised by the question. The manner in which she posed the question was noteworthy. Not with doubt, but with acceptance, as if she had known all along. I paused. "Is that you, Jake?" "I hadn't anticipated it," I remarked. Her expression remained unchanged. "I knew it," she whispered. "You walked away from this marriage 2 years ago," I said. "I've been sharing my bed with someone who gazes at me as if I'm just a roommate. Have you ever considered the impact it has on an individual?" "Who could it be?" she inquired. "Could it be someone familiar to me?" I parted my lips. "It's done." She narrowed her eyes. "Wow, incredible." She inhaled deeply. "Lena here." I chose not to respond. Her eyes brimmed with tears, not from heartbreak, but from humiliation. "I should have known," she whispered. "The way she gazed at you, the sudden closeness between you two is striking." "Wow, I really messed up." I quickly replied, "You're not. It wasn't meant to unfold this way. However, it did." "Absolutely." She rose abruptly, moving restlessly around the room as if the walls were closing in on her. "I can't quite tell if I'm feeling angry," she remarked. "Is that unusual? I ought to be. Yet, I find myself feeling hollow." I stood as well. "We've been finished for quite a while now. We simply preferred to keep it unspoken." She came to a halt. "So what's next now that we've put it out there?" Our eyes locked. We determined the next steps. Her voice floated softly, barely a whisper. "I desire a separation." I gave a nod. Understood. We stood there, transformed from adversaries, yet not quite anything more. Meanwhile, upstairs, Lena remained silent, anticipating the consequences that neither of us could prevent at this point. As soon as Emily walked out the door, the silence enveloped the house like a thick blanket. Far from tranquil, not at this moment, simply serene, no stilettos on the hardwood. Say goodbye to late-night conference calls reverberating through the corridors. The bathroom was devoid of the familiar scent of her citrus perfume. It felt as though she had vanished into thin air,
carrying away all the elements that had once woven this place into a tapestry of shared existence. She left quietly, without slamming doors or raising her voice. That didn't align with her style. Meanwhile, she meticulously packed 3 bags as I stood downstairs, a knot tightening in my throat and an unfamiliar ache settling in my chest. As she made her way down the stairs, pulling a rolling suitcase along, we both stopped in the entryway, taking a moment to absorb the scene. Her eyes locked onto mine, rimmed with red, yet devoid of tears. The night before had extinguished all the emotion. She mentioned that she would be staying with a friend, for the time being. I gave a nod. Understood. She paused for a moment, then said, "I don't hate you. I don't harbor any ill feelings towards you either," I responded. And just like that, she vanished. Just like that. A union wrapped in quietude. Lena spent the whole day in her room. I held no blame towards her. As she stepped out that evening, her complexion was ghostly, and her eyes held a hint of uncertainty. She positioned herself at the kitchen's threshold, hands intertwined as if preparing for an impending collision. "Has she left?" she inquired. I gave a nod. "She departed this morning." Lena let out a slow breath, as if the burden of that truth was too heavy to contain in a single exhale. She whispered that she knows it was me. I didn't mention your name. I told her instead. Yet, she was aware. She cracked the code. Lena's voice dripped with bitterness as she recalled how she always despised it when I grew close to those she cherished. From a young age, "This isn't your fault," I reassured softly. She gazed up at me, her eyes weary. "Isn't that the case?" I firmly declined. "It certainly isn't." She moved deeper into the room and settled into one of the kitchen chairs. "What's the next step?" "I'm not sure," I replied. "I truly don't." We lingered in silence for a moment, not the kind brimming with tension, but one that bore the weight of decisions taken, boundaries crossed, and hearts laid bare. "I should also go stay with a friend," she suggested. "Allow yourself some room. Allow time for everything to find its place." I didn't want her to do that. The idea of rising in this house all by myself sent a tightness through my chest. Yet, I chose not to intervene. Perhaps she required that space as well. "If you feel like chatting, I'm right here," I mentioned. She gave a nod. "I'm aware." She rose to her feet and approached me. We refrained from kissing. We didn't even embrace one another. Her hand rested on my chest for a fleeting moment, fingers gently curling into the fabric of my shirt, her gaze probing into mine. "You're a good man, Jake," she remarked. "You simply lost the ability to believe it." And then she vanished as well. The days that followed seemed to linger in an unusual state of uncertainty. I put in the effort, consumed, rested, exhaled. I glided through the house, my fingers grazing objects as if they were on the verge of vanishing. The coffee mug remained tucked away in the cabinet. The robe remained draped over the back of the bathroom door. A subtle imprint on the couch cushion where Lena had nestled against me, forever marked in the canvas of my memory. Messages from friends began to roll in. Some colleagues observed a change in my appearance. "Are you all right, my friend?" they would inquire. Absolutely, I would. Feeling a bit worn out. I didn't feel sadness. Not quite. More akin to confusion. It felt as though I had emerged from a dense fog,
only to find myself in an open field, devoid of any map or signposts, faced with countless potential paths ahead of me. The most surprising aspect was the overwhelming sense of relief. Beneath the weight of guilt and confusion lay a subtle yet shameful feeling of liberation. Not happiness, not a victory, only space. The freedom to breathe deeply, unburdened by the gaze of those who remain indifferent. I've been thinking about Emily a lot lately. I long for the person she once was. I was done with the act of pretending. Just 3 days later, Lena shot me a text. "Hello there. Are you doing all right? Absolutely. What about you? Are you all right? Not quite. Would you like to have a conversation?" She arrived that evening. We kept our distance. No kiss was exchanged. We lingered in the living room, mere inches apart, as if we were anticipating the flicker of life in the space that separated us. "I can't help but wonder if I've completely messed up your life," she said. "I mentioned that you didn't. You've just uncovered what was hidden beneath the surface." I long for a different outcome. I confessed as well. However, it did not. She gazed intently at her hands. "Are you feeling any regret about that decision?" "Absolutely. I meant it sincerely. Yet, I despise the pain it caused her." Lena gave a nod. "She will never forgive me. It's unlikely." She blinked rapidly, battling back the tears. "I believe it's best if I don't remain here. Unavailable at this location. Not at this moment." "Then go," I urged softly. "Understand that what transpired between us was far from a mere error. It held significance." Her gaze met mine, eyes wide with surprise. Indeed, it did. Once more, she departed under the cover of night. This time, it felt different, like a new beginning rather than a farewell. It was as if time stood still, a pause between inhalations. In that moment, I started to experience a sensation I hadn't encountered in ages: anticipation. The process spanned a total of 24 days. It was quite a while before I laid eyes on Lena once more. Not in a fleeting moment, not in a digital conversation, not through the lens of recollection or uncertainty. For 24 days, I've faced a collection of empty coffee mugs, cold sheets, and countless evenings spent gazing at the ceiling, pondering the fine line between love and mere survival. Emily failed to make contact. Not even once. We initiated the paperwork with our legal team. No drama unfolded. There's no courtroom here. Merely names inscribed on paper, signatures that cut through the fabric of history with a hushed certainty. She settled in with a friend by the seaside. Her belongings gradually vanished from the house, as if dust had been stirred from aged curtains. Initially, I believed I would feel empty. However, I did not. I experienced a sense of freshness, still feeling the impact, indeed. However, truthful. On the 25th day, I received a message from Lena. "Are you there?" I gazed at it for what felt like an eternity before responding, "Always." She requested to meet at the Overlook, the very spot where we had parked weeks earlier, where her hand first brushed against mine, forever altering the atmosphere between us. I set out just before twilight. The sky radiated a gentle golden hue, evoking a sense of intimacy, as if the universe was sharing a quiet secret, just before it drifted into slumber. Upon my arrival, she was already present, casually leaning against the railing, with the wind playfully tousling strands of hair across her face. She pivoted at the sound of gravel crunching under my tires. Her smile lit up the room. Compact. Proceed with caution, yet authentic. "I wasn't certain you would show up," she remarked. "I wasn't certain you would bring it up," I responded. We lingered together, gazing out over the serene expanse of the lake. The water lay perfectly still, its surface smooth and reflective, as though it were pausing in anticipation. I've been staying with a friend, exploring the journey to discover where I truly belong. So, what's next? I inquired. She expressed her realization that she doesn't desire to belong to anyone. I want to decide my position, the allies I support. I gazed at her. The light shimmered in her eyes, illuminating them perfectly. She appeared weary, stunning, embracing our humanity without hesitation. I'm not looking for any commitments, I stated. I seek nothing but honesty. You've already experienced that, she said, moving in closer. Every challenging, intricate, foolish aspect of myself. I was always open with you about everything. I said no, you never did. With a swift motion, she delved into her jacket and retrieved a neatly folded piece of paper, written by hand, folded in half, then folded again. She passed it to me. What is this? I inquired. She mentioned a letter I had written. Following that evening on the couch, I didn't send it. I have opened it. Her looping handwriting showcased my name prominently at the top. The opening line stated, "You didn't merely make me feel acknowledged, you made me feel selected." I tucked it away before diving deeper into the content. The overwhelming flood of information was simply too much to absorb in a single moment. "I've felt fear," she confessed, concerned that this, whatever it may be, emerged from destruction. We were merely addressing gaps created by another party. I stated that we weren't. You left a gap unfilled. A door swung open. She moved in even closer now. We stood just inches apart, the wind playfully tugging at her coat. Her gaze met mine, unwavering and intense. She remarked on the words that people express when they find themselves in love. "I adore you. Your presence is essential to me. Please stay. Stick around." I patiently waited. "I've uttered those words in the past," she went on, "to those men who were unworthy of them, to those who diminished my worth. Yet this time she softly spoke. I have something different to express." She extended her hand, grasping mine, reminiscent of that evening in the car. Now, it stood steady. "I choose you," she declared, introducing 3 fresh terms. Absolutely no pleading. Stay calm and composed. Simply clear. A sensation caught in my throat. My grip on her hand grew firmer. "I select you as well," I declared. Then, I leaned in and kissed her. It didn't have an appetite. It was calm and collected. It unfolded slowly and deliberately, as if we were allowing our hearts to catch up to a truth our bodies had already embraced. As we separated, the sun had just slipped beneath the treetops. The sky shimmered in hues of lavender and gold. The air was infused with the scent of pine and earth, evoking a sense of endings that seamlessly transitioned into new beginnings. We lingered in that moment, wrapped in each other's embrace, words unneeded. As we made our way back to the house, our house, even if it would take a while to truly feel like it, I noticed her hand move toward the radio. She played a gentle melody, a timeless piece that wrapped around you like a warm embrace. She hummed softly to the tune. It dawned on me. The 3 words that transformed my life weren't, "I love you." This time, it's a no-go. Indeed, they were. Not this evening. That marked the start of the conclusion. These 3 words, "I choose you," marked the start of it all. That's it for today's story. If you found it moving, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.